Yes, thanks, Stephen. Greece's inability to pay back its mountain of debt had led to fears of contagion, with fears that other countries struggling with debt may run into trouble too. Well, that's why French President Nicolas Sarkozy said the EU's ambition was to seize the Greek crisis to make a quantum leap in Eurozone governance to prevent any further problems. We'll go live to our correspondents in Brussels and Athens in a moment. But first, what's in the deal? Well, the second bailout comes in two parts, about $156 billion from Eurozone countries and the IMF, while private lenders will contribute about $53 billion. And in a sign of flexibility from the lenders, interest will be charged at lower than market rates. And they'll have up to 30 years to repay it, rather than a maximum of 7.5 years. Well, for more on this, we'll go now to our correspondent Jonah Hull, who's been following these events in Brussels. So, tell me, what are the main headlines, do you think, that have come out of this in terms of the politics and dealing with the crisis?
Well, I think nobody expected these talks to be easy, and until just 24 hours ago, nobody really had strong expectations that they would be successful either. But after 10 hours of talks here in Brussels, Eurozone leaders have come up with this raft of proposals that they hope will go some way to finding a solution for Greece, to answering the concerns of the financial markets, and producing some sort of set of tools for Europe to enable it to deal better with financial instability in the future. The sort of headline issues here, just to run through them very briefly: there is a second bailout package in place now for Greece. That's agreed, with fresh money coming from the EU, from the Financial Stability Facility, the Rescue Fund, and from the IMF. That money will be loaned with longer maturity terms and at lower interest rates, making it cheaper, more affordable, and therefore easier to repay by Greece. There will be a degree of private sector involvement. Banks, in other words, who loaned money to Greece, who will voluntarily take losses on those loans, contributing a further $50-odd billion worth of assistance for Greece. They've also gone some way, or plan to strengthen and enhance the Financial Stability Facility to enable it to step in more quickly, to intervene, to provide loans to non-bailout countries and prevent the need for bailouts in the future. And they've gone even further than that. They've talked about possible future measures to enhance economic cooperation among the Eurozone, turning this monetary union, or putting it one step further, towards a fiscal union. It is a momentous set of very wide-ranging decisions announced in Brussels today.
And Jonah, the famous default word, what about that? I mean, where does that come into this equation, and could that still spell trouble ahead?
Yes, I think that could still spell trouble ahead, and that is the big question mark that will loom over decisions taken here on Thursday night. The issue of private sector involvement, of the banks taking those voluntary losses or haircuts, could well be viewed by the credit ratings agencies as a partial default. Two things would flow from that potentially. The banks would lose their lines of credit with the European Central Bank because the collateral that they rely on, the Greek debt that they own, would be defunct. And there is also, of course, the risk that the financial markets would see those haircuts in Greece as applying equally, potentially, later to other economies like Italy and Spain, and investors taking flight on that basis. Well, the Eurozone has been careful to point out that the banks are only partaking in losses for Greek debt, no other economies, and they are keen to point out as well that there will be no further losses to banks and investors from other evolving indebted nation problems.
OK, Jonah, thanks very much indeed. Jonah Hull live in Brussels.